The woman who tugged the hardest upon the great chain and pulled Rapture into its golden era was the scientist Bridget Tenenbaum. Before arriving in the underwater city in 1946, she had spent the majority of World War II imprisoned at Auschwitz, a Nazi concentration camp. There, the young woman would make the first major discovery of her life.
I was at German prison camp, only 16 years old when I realized I have love for science. German doctor, he make experiment. Sometimes he makes scientific error. I tell him of this error, and this make him angry. But then he asks, how can a child know such a thing? I tell him sometimes I just know. He screams at me, then why tell me? Well, I said, if you are going to do such things, at least you should do them properly. At the German prison camp, they put me to work on genetic experiments on other prisoners. They call me das Wunderkind, the wonder child. Germans. All they can talk about is blue eyes and the shape of forehead. All I care about is, why is this one born strong and that one weak? This one smart, that one stupid. All that killing. You think the Germans could have been interested in something useful?
Bridget Tenenbaum didn't care that she was experimenting on her own people. What mattered most to her was the science, the discoveries. Fortunately for her, her status as Das Wunderkind kept her alive until the camp's liberation by Soviet forces. The rest of her family, however, were not so lucky. They were gassed, cremated, and their ashes scattered in a pit nearby. Not too long afterward, Bridget Tenenbaum disappeared. Many speculated that she had been smuggled away by the Americans as part of Operation Paperclip, or had been killed due to her involvement in the Nazi doctor's experiments. However, the truth of the matter is that she arrived in Rapture, where she would make the greatest discovery of her career.
I saw one of the smugglers having a game of catching on the docks today, and this surprised me because his hands were crippled during the war. He was unloading the barge the other day when he was bitten from the sea slug. He woke up the next morning and he found he could move his fingers for the first time in years. I asked him if he still had that sea slug. As luck would have it, he did.
Taking the slug, Tenenbaum eagerly experimented on it, subjecting it to a barrage of tests, till the slug revealed its special abilities.
This little sea slug has come along and glued together all the crazy ideas I've had since the war. It doesn't just heal damaged cells, it resurrects them. I can bend the double helix. Black can be reborn white, tall, short, weak, strong. But the slugs alone are not enough. I'll need money. And one other thing.
The sea slug produced a strange liquid material Tenenbaum dubbed Atom. This substance produced raw stem cells that could morph into any type of cell, allowing for the reconfigurement of someone's genetic structure. And with some proper manipulations, Atom could do more than repair a man's crippled hand. Yet unlocking Atom's true potential required a lot more testing, which necessitated a sponsor to fund the whole operation. Thus why Tenenbaum turned to Frank Fontaine.
Spent the morning jawing with that Kraut scientist. She's damaged goods, all right. Just like all those chumps they scraped out of them prison camps. But she's no crackpot. She's gonna make me the kind of scratch that'll have Ryan look like he's running a paper route. She just needs some supplies to get the ball rolling and a friend to watch her back.
Frank Fontaine was a shady businessman with a dubious past. He arrived in Rapture in 1948 and set up a smuggling ring with a group of loyal men he brought along to the city. When Ryan cut contact to the surface 3 years later, Fontaine's business received a noticeable boost in operations, and he was raking in the money. Though Tenenbaum preferred to collaborate with someone of higher repute, her options were limited.
As the respectable labs have all turned me away, I have turned to Fontaine's smugglers in Port Neptune for supplies. Fontaine's men are pigs. They spit, they stink. But they deliver, and they don't ask questions. They're all terrified of Fontaine. He reminds me a bit of the Germans. So efficient. It wouldn't surprise me if he were soon running things down here.
Between the two of them, an agreement was made. Fontaine would fund Tenenbaum's experiments, while Tenenbaum would produce enough Adam for eventual public consumption. She would hold true to this agreement, even when her future studies revealed Adam's highly addictive properties.
Adam acts like a benign cancer, destroying native cells and replacing them with unstable stem versions. While this very instability is what gives it its amazing properties, it is also what causes the cosmetic and mental damage. You need more and more Adam just to keep back the tide. From a medical standpoint, this is catastrophic. From a business standpoint, well, Fontaine sees the possibilities.
As a scientist in need of financial backing, she could easily dismiss this detriment without worry. But when another obstacle arose halting her research directly, she could not. The sea slugs were unable to produce enough Adam to sell on a large scale. She needed to find a way to expedite the production process. After many failed attempts, Tenenbaum surgically embedded the slugs into the stomachs of test subjects, and the results were promising.
The augmentation procedure is a success. The slugs alone could not provide enough Adam for serious work, but combined with the host, now we have something. The slug is embedded in the lining of the host's stomach, and after the host feeds, we induce regurgitation. And then we have 20-30 times yield of usable Adam. The problem now is the shortage of hosts. Fontaine says patience, Tannenbaum. Soon, the first home for little sisters will open, and that problem will be solved.
But there was a catch. The sea slug would only embed in the stomachs of young girls, around 5 to 10 years old. Yet, as Tenenbaum noted, little girls were in short supply in Rapture. That was until Frank Fontaine remedied that with the founding of the Little Sisters Orphanage. Tenenbaum's research now could advance forward unencumbered.
I know why it has to be children, but why just girls? This I cannot determine why, but I know it is so. Fontaine says, one less bathroom to build in the orphanage. It is amazing to watch the effect of Adam on their small bodies. Their own cells replaced by the new stems the instant they are damaged. These children are practically invulnerable. It is a shame you could not do the same thing to an adult. There would be quite a market for a man you could not kill.
Not only are those little girls veritable Adam factories, they're nearly indestructible. They regenerate any wounded flesh with stem versions of the dead cells. But their relationship with the implanted slugs is symbiotic. If you harvest the slug, the host will die. So you see, it's not like killing, Tenenbaum said. It's more like removing a terminal patient from life support.
The children must remain functional to be effective producers of Adam. I had hoped we placed them into vegetative states so they would be more pliable. I find being around them very uncomfortable. Even with those things implanted in their bellies, they are still children. They play and sing. Sometimes they look at me and they don't stop. Sometimes they smile.
Now that Tenenbaum was producing large amounts of Adam, next was to refine them into a consumable product for sale. To do this, Frank Fontaine brought Dr. Yi Su-chong onto the project. Son of a house servant in rural Korea, Dr. Su-chong allegedly sold opium to Japanese soldiers to fund his experiments during World War II. It is believed he survived the slaughter of his village because of this. Eventually, he disappeared and made a new home in Rapture, where he founded Su-chong Institute and Laboratories for independent research. He was initially contracted with Ryan Industries and Sinclair Solutions, but inconsistent funding prompted him to work secretly with Fontaine Futuristics. There he'd meet Bridget Tenenbaum for the first time.
That's quite a little monster Fontaine's dug up. When she does speak, which is almost never, her accent is thick and grating. Her hair is filthy and she seems to wear the same mustard-stained jumper day after day. But I've got to hand it to Frank. Tenenbaum is the old-timer diamond in the rough. No formal training, no experience, but put her in front of a gene sequence and she's Mozart at the harpsichord.
Suchong's task was to develop a series of plasmids and gene tonics that genetically modified a variety of physical and mental attributes, and he delved into his work with relish.
Tenenbaum. Sometimes I pity the little freak. Such a tiny imagination. Content to sit there with the tanks of Adam tweaking and optimizing. I need to create. Adam is a canvas of a genetic modification, but the plasmids are the paint. Clinical trial lot 23, Dr. Suchong, client Fontaine Futuristics. Work on telekinesis plasmid proceeding well. Lifting objects at distance presents no problem. Moving objects to space, no problem. Cannot stop speeding bullet, but can catch and throw faster moving object. Problem not with plasmid. Problem with reaction time. Suchong just get new idea for plasmid. Clinical trial lot 44, Dr. Suchong, client Fontaine Futuristics. Subject is white male, one Roland Wallace. Can you hear me, Mr. Wallace?
Yes, sir, Mr. Suchong, sir.
Very well. Right, I'm introducing lot 44 now. We've codenamed the lot 44 Enrage because of its tendency to... Nurse? Hold him down! Nurse!
Once Adam was ready for market, Frank Fontaine used his connections and talents to get the city hooked on the stuff.
I've never known a problem can't be solved with the right kind of party. Met a man named Frankie Fontaine at my shindig last night. Old Frankie's gonna help me get my contraband kitties down here. And he brought something new to the party as well. Something positively scandalous. Some kind of wonder drug called Adam.
Adam was an instant success. Practically everyone was scrambling to get their hands on the latest gene tonic that improved your physical stamina or mental capabilities. Plasmids were all the rage now that one could easily light a fire with a flick of the wrist or pull items towards you with only your mind. Fontaine made a fortune. But there were those who cautioned against the use of Adam and harped on the hazardous effects it had on the user, not to mention the financial crunch it had on smaller businesses. But for Andrew Ryan, the creation of Adam was merely the greatest test of his ideology.
There has been tremendous pressure to regulate this plasmid business. There have been side effects, blindness, insanity, death. But what use is our ideology if it is not tested? The market does not respond like an infant, shrieking at the first sign of displeasure. The market is patient, and we must be too. Gregory, don't come whining to me about market forces, and don't expect me to punish citizens for showing a little initiative. If you don't like what Fontaine is doing, well, I suggest you find a way to offer a better product.
He turned a blind eye to Adam's impact on Rapture at the beginning, but others were not so willing. Those like Bill McDonough saw clearly the writing on the wall.
Rapture's changing, but Ryan can't see the wolves in the woods. This Fontaine fellow, he's a crook and a proper tea leaf, but he's got the Adam, and that makes him the governor.
Fontaine grabbed hold of the great chain and gave it a mighty pull in a direction Andrew Ryan had not expected, nor come to appreciate. Yet Fontaine was not the only one trying to force the great chain to bend to their will. Under pressure from the inhabitants of Rapture, Andrew Ryan invited a psychiatrist to come live in the underwater city, and when Dr. Sophia Lamb arrived, she sought not just a tug at the great chain, but to break it entirely.